Okay.
Hello, everyone. This is Sharon, the creator of Self-Care for Black Men. And here today, I have Reginald Howard. He's an author, a father, podcast, and he has a fiance, and he's just a wonderful guy. And he has agreed to talk to us today, I guess you could say, about manhood and about his book, Suffering to Success. And before we get started, we're going to center ourselves. One of the things that I try to do, especially implementing all of this, I want men to know that in centering ourselves, instead of just beginning, and push, sometimes if we just sit in silence, even within ourselves or if it's in a group, it just helps us to focus better. So sit in a comfortable position wherever you are. Place your feet flat on the floor if you're on a chair. And if you're on the floor, your legs can be straight or crisscross. Ground your sit bones into the seat of the chair or the ground of Mother Earth. Allowing your back. Relax your shoulders. Gaze your eyes towards Mother Earth. Gently close your eyes if you like. Center your heart and place your hands on your lap with your hands towards the sky of Mother Earth. And let's take 3 deep cleansing breaths. Slowly inhale with a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mouth wide open. Exhale. Let's do that again. Slowly inhale for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mouth wide open. Exhale. One last time. Slowly inhale for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mouth wide open. Exhale. Now center your heart with the rhythm of your breath and just notice your breath. Notice the sensations of your body. Notice your surroundings. Release the world outside of you. Let go what doesn't serve you in this conversation or in listening to this conversation. Allow yourself to be present in this moment. And slowly inhale. Slowly exhale through your nose. Bring your attention back to the surface and gently open your eyes.
That was good. It reminded me of my meditation. You got the voice and everything.
Okay, well, good, good. Yeah, it's one of those things in this world, in this society, as a whole, we're just taught to move, move, move,
Go,
go,
go.
go,
Mm-hmm.
go. And, whether we do it ourselves or we're in a group, I try to remember to do it at work. I don't always remember, but at least, I try to remember when I get to work to at least sit down and take 5 deep breaths. Because it just, because a lot of times you just, start your day, and it just helps. It really just helps. And I've watched interviews and things on TV and workshops on TV, and they talked about a lot of companies are going to that, like meditation and meetings and stuff, and they talked about just how much that has really helped bring companies together. And so, one, if we do it individually and collectively, it really, really helps.
Yes, it really is. That I try to make sure I do it at least once a day for 10 minutes. I'm working towards like as I grow older, I get more time with it, but I'm still young. I'm still a millennial, so we want to go, go, go. So I'm like, I at least try to do 10 minutes. So you just giving me that was extra to my day, so I'm grateful.
No, well, good, good, good. Well, again, I really do appreciate you talking to me. And one, it's not talking to me, but talking to men, because this is what
Right.
it's about. It's about self-care for men, how to take care of yourself or what's going on, and about the voices of men. And one of the things that caught my attention is when I had decided, actually it was probably I think it was the middle of last year, I decided that I wanted to, focus on men, basically mainly because the media just, do not make Black men look good. And I'm like, okay, well, let's change this. And then also, like, I work in mental health myself. And then when I really thought about it, I'm like, you know what? I don't see that many Black men come into services. And then when they do, it's not always in a positive light. So I wanted to change that narrative as well, as to look for things for them, for you guys, to see what's out there, to offer services, should I say, in a different way. Counseling is beneficial for everyone, but the reality is everyone cannot afford counseling. And the other thing is sometimes that first appointment, it can be 3 to 4 weeks before that. One thing I want to say, by this being Mental Health Awareness Month, one thing that I have found interesting, I can't remember if I saw it written down, but I think I heard you say it too. You were talking about, I would say, mental health with, I can't remember, was it depression or anxiety? But at some point you were saying you were experiencing, I say, some of the traits, and you did not even realize that was so. Talk a little bit about that.
So I a little bit of backstory. I've been dealing with what quote unquote is called mental health since a child. My grandmother told my mother, which was my dad's mom. So my dad's mom told my mother that she didn't want her having any more of those demon children. So for a long time, I want to say I hated, but I'll say dislike, because hate is a strong word. I disliked my grandmother. And I finally got a chance. I'm 27. I just turned 28 on Monday, but I'm 28 now, and about 3 years ago, I finally got a chance to ask her what she meant by that. And it's because my dad had gave her so much hell as far as the things that he was going through as a kid, that um she didn't want she already seen it in my older sister. So it was like, I told you not to have another one. So it was almost proclamated over my life that I was going to have some type of issue. And as I grew, my mom and dad broke up, and they restrained. So I never really had my dad. He was in and out. Unfortunately, we were able to build a relationship today. But my dad was in and out of my life, which caused anger issues, which caused me, when I went into my relationship with my fiance, we would have different things going on where I was struggling with being in a relationship, being a father, being depressed, and not knowing how to be the man that my father wasn't able to show me, as well as being a good man to a woman. I didn't have the tools necessary. Anxiety kicked in when my first son was born, and I wanted to commit suicide. As far as like trying to just like I have no self-worth. So I felt like I don't have a job, I don't have a car, I don't have a place to stay. We staying with my mom. What can I offer this kid? I remember it clearly to this day. I text my all my friends, the closest ones I have. I'm like, take care of my son. I don't want to be here no more. And fortunately, one of them came and got me. But even still, they just took me home. And I tell a lot of people all the time, when you feeling suicidal, it's not like you want to end your life almost. You just want the pain that your life is feeling to stop. So when I went in the house, I wound up still taking pills because I still was upset. And then my godmother came in because they didn't hear from me all night. But she came, knocked on the door of my mother's home, and was just knocking because they had thought I was overdosing. And she took me to her house, and she was like, life is just too heavy for him right now. So she was monitoring me basically, and then we were sitting, and then that's when I said, man, I gotta start fighting back. And I wound up doing all this reading and researching, read a book on anger management. And I came across, mind you, during that whole time, I didn't know nothing about anxiety, depression, suicide, and all of the mental things that I've learned over time. I just know I didn't feel good. So when I went and did doing research, I ran across an interview while I was on YouTube, and it was saying it was a black man, and he was speaking about depression. He was speaking about anxiety. He was speaking about suicide. And I'm like, that's what that thing is called? Because we're trading the media. That doesn't look like me. But when the guy spoke it, I'm like, oh, that's called mental health. And then I started diving into it. I always knew I wanted to write a book. I always knew I wanted to do a podcast, speak, coach people, but I never knew it was a thing called mental health. And then once I found it, I'm like, oh, if I don't know it, then the world, it's a bunch of, especially black men, we don't know nothing about that. So I'm like, I'm not going to come from a therapeutic or from a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, therapy way, but I can offer services or content that can be therapeutic. Because sometimes in the tagline of my podcast is sharing therapeutic stories. Sometimes just having conversations like this one we're having is therapeutic enough, and it'll be the gateway into therapy or the gateway for somebody like myself who's a self motivator to go learn about different resources about like meditating and yoga and stuff that's out there to help deal with your mental struggles that you have going on. So I that's how I went on my journey of getting into it.
Wow, that was so powerful what you had just said, and that is so true too, because a lot of times some people may be experiencing those things, but do not have, the language to know
Mm-hmm.
what it is or to articulate it. And then you have this thing where men, just in general, do not talk to each other. And then even if you do, depends on who you're talking to, you know, and again, I'm kind of going by from what I've heard, and what I've seen too, is that sometimes some men will push off, other men, like what you're talking about, when they say, oh, well, you need to man up and things like that. And my observation, and this is just me, I think that kind of comes from because no one has experienced that, and they just don't know what to do with it. So I feel that's why men respond that way. They just don't know what to do with it. So I just started telling people it's hard for us to hold space for other people because we can't hold space for ourselves. Because if you're dealing with something yourself or you never dealt with something, how can you hold space for something? And then on top of that, with men are problem solvers, how can we resolve it? And as you just said, a lot of times people may just need to tell their story, just to let it out. And there's a lot of stuff, even what I'm reading, and even, my experience as a therapist is a lot of times people just need to talk, just to let it out.
And not to cut you off, but that is so true because I talk to so many men, and that's why I come from an angle of like, yo, bro, I've been where you was at, and I'm not even trying to come from a place of judgment. Like, I feel like, especially within our community, it's a stigma on Black men as far as them not being good fathers, not being able to be in a committed relationship. Not is and it's so much of a stigma that people never ask why. It's just, oh, he ain't ish, or oh, he's not a good dad. And it's like, do you ever ask why? Nobody ever sit down and ask why instead of judging and critiquing and criticizing and all of that. So I've learned to be the voice, I guess, for the better version of what it looks like when a man does the work to fix himself. As far as like even being in like just being, I've been through every single struggle that a Black man in the Black community can go through. Whereas it's like, I understand what it means, and a lot of Black women may not like this, but I understand what it means. Where it's like, yo, F this, I don't care about these kids, I don't care about this girl, I'm out. And I've been in that space, and I know what that looks like. I know what it feels like. And for some people, it's so hard for them to understand. Oh, you don't love your kids, or da 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 da. And it's like, no, it's not that. But you're never going to even take the time out to sit and ask me and try to understand. You're just going to judge me. So I don't even want to talk. So most of the time, men don't feel comfortable sharing their experiences and emotions, because there's not a safe and comfortable space for them to feel like, all right, I'm gonna listen to you without judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, and that's the message that I've been getting too by me, doing what I'm doing now, and then listening to different podcasts. Because again, your podcast is one of the first ones that I started listening to, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, oh, so there is stuff out there. Because one of the reasons that I decided, to take this journey, because I'm like, still compared to like women, and especially blacks, there's just not a whole lot of stuff out there for Black men. So I kind of feel like just the more that, whether it's men or women who do it, it's just better for Black men. But yeah, it was just so surprising. I'm not so surprising, but it was pleasantly surprising, to hear that and to hear some of the conversations when I was listening to your podcast. I'm like, wow. And you just, get a different view, even though, I mean, I've always been one, like growing up, yeah, I saw where men were not involved, in people's family, but even the way that, statistically wise, they say how children are. I can remember like going to school, like, what are you talking about? I don't see that. I didn't see that in my family, or, not ever, like if you want to put percentage wise, I didn't see that in my neighborhood, and things like that. But I mean, that's a different story when it comes to that, and whatsoever.
And it's almost like, and I felt that for a long time, even before my platforms, that the unsung heroes, like the men that who are there daily, who are good fathers, who are good husbands, they don't even get recognized. On Father's Day Father's Day is almost approaching, and that's taking the bash. It uplifts baby mothers and bash baby fathers that don't take care of their kids, when there are a lot of good men out there
Oh
that
yeah.
deserve their same praises on Father's Day for doing the job. And men are modest in the sense where the ones that you shouldn't be praised for doing good, but Mother's Day is celebrated for the good mothers. So why can't Father's Day be celebrated in the same way? And it's almost like, and it keeps me sane and whole when it comes to that, is that it's almost like the squeakiest wheel gets the most attention. You don't care about the other wheels because they're doing their job, they're doing what they're supposed to do. But the squeakiest wheel is like, all right, I got to give that some oil, I got to give that some attention. And that's what I feel like the dads or the men that aren't doing good, they take that time out to bash them, or the ones that are there daily, that take care of their kids, that are good and devoted and not cheated husbands, they don't even get the recognition. And it's almost like I've talked to them too, and it's like, you're not supposed to get praises. But I'm like, if mothers can get it, why can't fathers get it?
I mean, this is very, very true, and we need it more so. Because the other thing too that I realized is that, kind of going back to you were saying that the men who do it, are very modest, and I realized, like, the more I study, like, more about the brain, we have to be careful. We can say that we're humble, but at the same time, we need to speak what it is that we're doing, because when we're too humble, it's like the brain is like a blank slate in a sense, And even though you're not intentionally doing it, but it's almost like you're bringing yourself down if you're
Mhm.
muting yourself. And
Mhm.
it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, even though you can say, well, I don't believe it, but your brain doesn't know the difference. Your brain only knows
Mhm.
what you're feeding it. And so if you're
Mhm.
saying, well, I'm doing what I'm supposed to do, this is what it's expected of me. Oh no, because I, even for me as a professional and as a, a Black woman, I found myself doing that. I think I was watching a podcast. I was watching something and somebody said something. I was like, you know what? I've done that too, because I don't really
Mhm.
like attention. I said,
Mhm.
I need to stop doing that, because
Mhm.
you do, and so we do. And that was another reason that I developed this platform, to say, no, we need to be screaming and yelling to say,
Mhm.
okay, where these are, the wonderful Black men. And then at the same time, even for the Black men who have experienced some things, I say, who have sold drugs, been in jail, and do all those things, even acknowledge them, because for some of them it was circumstantial. You know what
That's it. That's it. And people look at men, and let me put a disclaimer out there because I don't want the people to get misjudged of what I mean. I
I mean?
fight for good men,
Mhm,
good-hearted men, not
mhm,
the men that ain't that it just are not nothing and they
mhm,
deserve it. Those men, I'm not fighting. I'm fighting for the men that's trying to be good fathers, but a mother is in the way of blocking them for being a
mhm.
good father, or the system is in the way, or their past is in the way. Like, so they can't even make the change. Excuse me. They can't even make the change to be a good dad because or a good husband because they're getting held to a standard of what they used to be. So I'm fighting for the people that are trying. My girlfriend, my fiance, I didn't stop that. I had to correct that. My fiance always say, "Yo, you're so patient with people. Like you sit there and really try to understand." It's because I know what it feels like to not be heard, or
Yeah.
not to ask why, or not to be understood when I was going through what I was going through. Like no one ever asked me why. So when I talk to them, man, I see the inside of them, not what they're protruding to be. Like I can see past all of that stuff. So drug dealers and people don't want to admit this. Drug dealers, you're a good businessman. You just got to those skills need to be transferred. If you can run organization and lead men and make them do this and
And
do all that, and you're a businessman. Like these people look at these like you said, that survival instinct. You did things out of way of survival and a means to an end. They'll, if we stop looking past what they're doing and what they're actually trying to do, or what they're saying and what they're actually trying to say, then I feel like we wouldn't be so quick to say there's no good man out there. There's no good. They're just buried in trauma. They're buried in the system. They're buried in bashing. They're buried in all of that stuff that no one takes the time to dig out and get to the good part of it. And again, let me put a disclaimer out. There are some good women that gave a lot of bad dudes wasted time.
mhm.
They gave a lot of bad too. So salute to them for putting up with certain dudes, because I know it's a lot of women that keep tolerating certain stuff from a man. But if it's a difference between but tolerating and supporting and making sure he get to that next level. If he's not identifying, if he's not accepting growth, then that's when it's time to move. You can't force nobody to do nothing. Maybe that's not your place to do it. But there are men out there that just need a little bit more support in a different type of way that'll allow them the ability to grow. I'm so thankful for my fiance because she gave me the ability to grow. At the time when I was going through all my stuff, I would tell her now she should have left, or she should have been a friend from afar while I grow through what I needed to grow through. But in that moment, I was no good of a man for her. Like I was no good of a man for her. We shouldn't even been in a relationship. But I salute her for sticking it through. And then they asked me like, how is it so easy for you not to cheat? I feel like I owe her to not like put that type of pressure out there on her, for me to be able to move around and she can move freely, to know that her man is not doing something, especially with me so aligned with my vision and purpose of who I am. I'm not about to just let it get lost over 5 minutes, 2 minutes of pleasure.
Sorry about that.
It's all right.
That that phone almost never rings, and it's a ring today, right?
But I'm sorry, I feel like I was going on a rant. Go ahead.
That is too funny. That phone almost never rings. Oh man. But sorry about that.
Now I was going on a rant anyway, so I go ahead. Whatever next question you was, I feel like
Oh
I was
no, that was a good rant. That was a good rant. Well, where in general that leads, well, not leads into that pretty much, I'm pretty sure encompass, your book, Suffering into Success.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Theater.
Out now on Amazon and on everywhere you need to get books.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about what inspired you to write the book and then what it's all about.
Okay, so the inspiration behind it came from me just studying successful people, and while I was going through the traumatic situation of my life and just being depressed and all that stuff, because I knew I wanted better for myself, but I just didn't know how to get it. And I was trying to avoid just going out there and just trying stuff, because I'm like, no, I want to go straight to success without going through like the failures and all of that stuff. So I started studying it, and I was just noticing a common theme, a common thread amongst everything that I was studying and researching. And it's the fact that in order for you to get success, you have to go through some pain and struggle. You can't want a good cooked meal without turning the oven on, waiting for it to heat up, preparing the food, and then putting it in the oven, and then waiting for the food to come out. You can't want a good looking body without going to the gym. Your body literally, your muscles have to literally tear apart and be ripped apart and then heal and they get bigger. It, and the most descriptive one that I've really paid attention to was the fact that a piece of diamond starts off as a coal, and it has to go through heat, pressure, and this transformative process before it becomes a diamond. But people want to skip out that caterpillar stage of going into its cocoon, and they just want to go straight to being a butterfly. And I'm like, yo, this concept has been around since the beginning of time, but people try to run from it and they trying to avoid it. And it's like, no, you got to embrace it, because they all are building blocks for you to get your success. A couple of the businesses ventures that I started have failed, but I was able to take each instrument or take different tools from each failure, and it propelled me to where I'm going today. Like I started a business where I needed to build a website and just do all of this stuff, but I was able to learn how to build websites, and now I know how to do that for the rest of my life. Like, and we run away from certain things and look at when we fail and think we're a failure. It's like, no, you take you take the lessons and you move on. And it was one of those things that I had to learn through trial and error. And then now I embrace failure. I embrace when I'm like feeling nervous, it's because I'm growing. When you feeling like you just embarrassed or anxiety, and it's like, that's because your body is transforming or your mind is transforming and you're about to go to another level of yourself.
Wow. I mean, what you just said was profound. I mean, people need to hear that, which they're going to hear it. That is just profound because, again, when it comes to the body, it's our GPS. But a lot of times people interpret that either one, people don't pay attention to their bodies, or they interpret feeling anxious. Oh, this is not what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to go the other way. And where it's something that we need to embrace and just continue to move forward. And as you say, if it comes to something that doesn't work out, we learn from, those things and just kind of move on. Wow, that was
The subtitle of my book is A Paradigm Shift of Struggle So That You Can Achieve Happiness. Struggle is not, I don't know, people look at struggle as like a form of like, I don't want to feel that. You can never get the body you want if you don't put your muscles through some pain, some ache. Like, you have to do that. Yoga, I experienced yoga, and it was so, and people look at yoga and think it's really like light. Yoga is one of the hardest things I ever done in my life. But I know it's because we're so used to being stern and stiff and stuff, and yoga stretches those muscles you probably haven't touched since you was a kid. Kids are so flexible because they're putting their body in all these different type of forms and positions. Yoga was one of the toughest things I had to learn, and it's like, I'm not about to quit it because it got tough. It's like, no, it's going to help you in the long run. These muscles need to be stretched. They need to be forced out of them firm positions. And then once they good, now I feel good when I I'm done yoga and I'm able to like, you know, stretch this portion of my body, and it just feels better. I don't even know why I went there, but it just feels a whole lot better.
Yeah, and one thing about yoga, one thing we say about it is taking yoga off the mat is
Hmm.
pretty much, what you're able to do on the mat. I like to say, what your how you approach the mat is how you approach life. That's how I like
Hmm.
to say it. Because for the most part, if you have difficulty on the mat, if you can figure out either if you need support or you're like, I don't really like this, but I'm going to
Hmm.
do it anyway, or you find yourself avoiding something, it's kind of
Hmm.
like, what else in your life do you
That
avoid?
you
What
do
else
that
in
too.
your life that you don't ask for support or use support and
Hmm.
things like that? And so that is almost like that's another reason of how yoga is really beneficial because it's really allowing you to get in touch with yourself.
And who you are.
It's more about the movement. People think it's just about stretching and flexibility. It's beyond that.
How you do anything is how you do everything. I learned that with myself. I I tend to over research before I start something, and I learned that I have to apply the knowledge and then learn from experience as well as news. Like it's like learn, apply, fail or succeed, repeat. Learn, apply, fail or succeed, repeat, and you just keep building off the knowledge. It's like, all right, Reg, get enough knowledge to learn to go out there and try something. Don't just go out there without knowing anything, because that was where the two version of myself was. It was going out there and trying stuff without any knowledge, and then the other one was like, all right, I failed too many times, so let me just learn as much as I can in the world, and then one day I'm gonna try. It's like, no, it's a mixture of both.
Yeah. And you had mentioned the thing about the butterfly. And the funny thing is, literally just yesterday, that came to my mind. So it's funny that you happen to mention that today. And the way I kind of think about it, it's not just that, I guess you could say, when we're going through hard times, I think that just when we get into just different aspects or something new in our lives, and we could probably put it like this, different parts of ourselves or different things, we probably have several cocoons and we don't even realize that we have
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, feel like, oh, I thought I was done with this, or you know how people say, oh, well, once something is done, there's something new, in which that's true, but actually you could have been in the middle of something and may not have even realized that. And so
Mm-hmm.
I really like that butterfly example that you gave too.
It's. I always look at it as and in the book I talk about. It's not like you get from one struggle to success and then you're there for there. It's a constant restart. You go from success back down to, all right, something learning and new, and then you're gonna work your way up, and then it's like, all right, what's the next thing? First, for me, it was learning how to do my podcast, and then I learned how to do that, got into a flow, and I was like, oh, I want to write a book. Knew nothing about writing a book. Went from the beginning, learned everything I needed to learn, wrote a book. Speaking, I didn't know nothing about speaking. Started studying speakers. Now I've been accepted in the schools, coaching. Just it's a constant battle of success, success, suffer, and people try to avoid it because they just want to skip the struggling part. And it's like, no, in order to get to success, you have to get through that part. It's a
Yeah,
prerequisite.
exactly. You gotta go through the process. You have to, go through the course. So what message would you have for men? What
Mm.
message do you have for men?
In regarding what aspect? Because I have a lot. In what aspect? Let's narrow it down so I can give a pinpoint.
I know, right? Okay, since this is about self-care, what message do you have for men about self-care?
um, it's something that I had to struggle with myself too. A lot of the self-care things that were out there or that we just talked about amongst this episode, yoga, meditation, just really opening up. I used to look at it as like being weak, emotional, soft, other words that I can't even say, that you feel like your boys are clown you or people will look at you. Whereas dealing with your emotions, dealing with stuff that regarding you is actually not weak at all. It's the strongest thing you can do, because you're actually acknowledging that something is wrong with you and you're attempting to make changes and fixes towards it. One of the transition I'm making now is getting like facials and manicures and stuff like that. Um, and I always looked at it, oh, that's a woman's thing, or that's stuff for. But hygiene is key. Like people take attention into hygiene, and I just learned that just dealing certain things that are out there that you look at and we give it its narrative of, oh, that's not for me. Just try it and see what the benefits are, because there's a reason why other people do it or try it. It was the same thing with music. I used to only listen to hip hop all the time. I only used to listen to hard rap in the hood and street raps, and then I started listening to Ed Sheeran and other types of people music who I would never, and I'm like, they have the same type of message a lot of the music in the streets have, whereas they're going through pain and they put it in the form of music. I only thought because of the environment that I came from that it was only one type of pain. But as I'm growing, as I'm learning, it's like everybody is experiencing some type of pain. Now it may be different from person to person, but we are all going through some type of pain. And we used to, and I want people to use their pain as their purpose and use that as instead of running from it, acknowledge it. All the stuff that I've been through in my life, as far as what I went through with my fiance, what I went through as being a son with my father, they have made me money. My book is literally about a time and a period where my mom kicked me out, and I was like, "F her! I'm not about to talk to her anymore. Like I'm not about to be around her." But at the end of it, and I'll give it away. I thank her for it because it made me grow as a man. Like my pain, I turned my pain into a profit. Like now the story that was a painful story is gonna make me money for the rest of my life and my grandchildren money. So I just say with self-care, just identify, just start taking care of yourself in the sense of identifying some of the issues that you may be dealing with and running from, because they'll help you in the long run as far as money, as far as spiritually, mentally, physically. Just start dealing with the stuff that you think is a waste in your life.
Okay. And one thing, if you don't mind sharing, and just briefly, I'd
Mm-hmm.
like the audience to know is about your accident. You don't have to go into details, but just, I mean, to be honest, just from where, what happened then and where you are now, I mean, I feel that this is amazing.
Man, and I'm gonna try to keep it as brief as possible because I understand. So last year was one of the best years of my life. Last year I put my book out, my podcast was flowing. I started speaking and getting paid for speaking. So I was on top of the world last year. And let me make sure I say this: my son, who was about to turn 1 in June, was born last year. So I had a lot of things to be thankful and grateful for. And on December 27th. Someone ran a red light and hit into me, and I had an open tibial fracture on my leg, so my bone was hanging out and my leg was hanging. My hand was a metacarpal fracture, so I can't really grab and do anything like I want to do. And at first, I'm looking up like, God, I was just on the brink of going to where I wanted to go to. What the heck is going on? Why is why is this happening to me right now? Like, what lesson do I need to learn? And to keep it honest with you, I don't know. I still don't know that answer, and I've been done trying to figure out, because I feel like some answers reveal themselves over time, and when you're trying to grasp it all at once, it's an elephant. You only can eat an elephant one piece at a time, so you have to wait for it to reveal itself. Like I know what that was for, but I was mad at the driver, everybody, just the hospital, everything, and then as I started to heal, mind you, going through a depression of like, oh, my leg is never going to be the same again. My hand is never going to be the same again. Um, I started to realize that I'm a mental health person, and I'm supposed to be telling people about depression, anxiety, suicide, all of that stuff that deals with mental health. Now I get to be a living example of where you can come from a place of being so painful, and I'm gonna show y'all that I mean exactly what I preach. Like and that's one of the things that I've learned to take from the accident was now you get to show everybody. Are you can't be all this out here trying to motivate people and tell people about mental health and and now you feeling that way. What would you say to yourself? What would you say to what if you was coaching you? What would you say to you? And now you get to show people. And now you're a living proof that people and people can believe in your word because you can show them. They watch the story play out. So I just used that accident. It could now it could have went the whole opposite way, where somebody like they'll use that to say, man, my life is a living hell right now. Like I'm depressed and I don't want to be here no more because I'm not my regular stuff. And I do have them days where I'm like, damn, I can't walk like I used to, or I'm nervous about driving in certain areas because I don't trust other cars. And I just started to like realize, man, you got to use, again, what I said earlier, use that pain to push you to wherever you want to get to in life. It's not, we use our story sometimes as a burden, and honestly, it could be a blessing at times if you use it right. So I just, that accident, man, it really it inspired me so much to go harder with my mission, my purpose, and alignment with what's important, like my family, like everything, like it aligned everything for me of like, all right, I know what I need to be doing. And before I was probably trying to walk into it, but now I'm running at full speed through all of it. Mind you, I'm running on half a leg damn near, but I'm still trying to like, I'm doing more now than I did with a fully capable body. And it's like, sometimes that's the, again, taking pieces from stuff that could be looked at as a failure and using that to propel you to that next level. Is like, oh, I got a little bruise on my leg and my hand, but I'm alive, so I can move forward and continue the things that I want to do in life.
Well, I really do appreciate you sharing your story, and just to let everybody to know, and you included, when things happen, when anything happen, and especially something like that, every emotion that you have, it's okay to have. Because sometimes I think we try to deny ourselves those feelings, like, oh, well, you should be happy that you're alive. But even though you're alive, it's still okay to be pissed off, mad,
Mm-hmm.
ask someone to be upset. And again,
Mm-hmm.
it's a process to get to where you are, to get to, who you are today, to reframe the story and how you look at it. All of that is a process.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I really do thank you sharing that story, because I do feel that that's a story that someone needs to hear, because they can look at, because suffering into success was before
Exact. I
the
proclamated over my
accident.
life.
Yeah, because I remember when you posted, pictures on Instagram, and I'm like, and my heart went out to you and your family. And then, I saw the progress. I'm like, wow. And so I guess you could say now it validated your purpose.
That's so true. You hit it right, the nail right on the head. It just validated it. I needed to go through that to validate. Mind you, that accident could have went so many different ways, where I'd have been unable to walk. I could have been paralyzed. I could have been this. To only come out with a little bit of stuff and a little, and I can still like relatively myself. And now I'm able to take that the energy of I've literally faced death, where I was in and out of consciousness and in the ambulance. And I remember just talking to God, like, if you get me out of this, God, I swear to you, I am going to go 10,000 times harder, because I was not done yet. Like, I was not done yet. And that's like how we know sometimes that we playing small in life, where we know we could be doing more, but we're like tiptoeing into the pool. Like, we got to jump in it and then start swimming, instead of just like, I'm gonna test the water a little bit. And no, jump in and go for it, because time is not promised, and we sit around and act like it is, and sometimes we get a wake up call that is not. And I got my wake up call, and I'm gonna keep it for the rest of my life, honestly.
Well, good for you, good for you. And I know there'll be plenty of people, watching you, listening to you, and you're definitely an inspiration. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we close out?
Honestly, and I try to share this when I go to schools and talk to the children, but I know a lot of us are stuck in some moments that could be defined as like where we didn't experience growth. So this applies to everyone. You shouldn't feel alone in a room full of people. And what I mean by that is, we only all feel alone in a room full of people is because we're not sharing our experiences. If you share your experiences with others, and not in a sense of, because we do it all the time at bus and go whatever they go in life. Sharing your experiences, you'll find out that other people are going through the same thing, and it'll allow you to know that you're not alone in this world and what you're sharing. Um, and it'll start to make you feel better about a lot of the things you're going through. And that's why I try to talk for men, because I feel like they don't sometimes have the right words to communicate what they're trying to say. And I feel like I need to be that voice of, no, this is what they mean. Even though they're acting this way, this is what they mean. So I want people to feel more, especially men, because this is for men, to feel obligated to share your story, but with the right person, because sometimes people can demean you and make you feel bad for sharing your story, for sharing what you're trying to say. And that's why I know therapy, the right therapist, comes into play, like someone that's not coming from a judgmental place and stuff like that. So share your story so so you can feel confident and comfortable in who you are.
Well said, well said, well said. Well, I really do appreciate you speaking to me, speaking to men, and also speaking to women too, because we need to know, how to
Mm-hmm.
support you guys, and also to understand you guys and where you're
Mm-hmm.
coming from, and so that it's not just a behavior. There's something going on underneath that, and to investigate it a little bit more and to dig a little deeper, and not to, and for us, not to, meaning us as women, not to be so reactive.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always just been one, especially now, to say, as individuals, the more that we work on ourselves, and then the better that all of us, men and women, then we can respond, not be reactive, but respond to others, and and collectively to the world.
And I appreciate your platform, and it's so necessary and needed, because to hear a woman start to actually try to understand men, most of the time these things are catered toward understanding women, where men feel like there's no one out there. So for you to dedicate a platform to understanding men is a phenomenal thing, and I appreciate you and salute you for that.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that's one thing that I saw, and that's what I want to do. So I appreciate it.
No problem. And if there's anything I could do to support or help out, I'm always here.
All right. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.